There you go. Just don't stand in the window. You might get shot.
I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I gotta turn down my reverb.
Yeah, you do.
Otherwise, it sounds like I'm in a hallway.
Sounds like you're deep in a well.
Help me, I call it. Don't let me get help. This is my life. I was cleaning up house today.
Yeah.
And I lost all my notes. Because, being the good housekeeper I am, I just threw them away.
Why?
Because when I get into cleaning mode, I'm like, yeah, that's garbage. That's garbage. A wadded up piece of paper. That's garbage. I need to fix my video. We don't need that. That's
Bring
filthy.
it down just a tidge.
Don't tell me what to do.
Do it.
No, because then you'll see my boobies and
I want to. I can't help it. No, not down like that. I'm talking about down. Now bring it back up. I'm done. Thank you. I lost you. Hello? Hello?
I just threw my whole thing. Just before I threw a fit.
Like I did.
So I had like awesome movies. Like, I was so excited. And like some really old ones. Some like really old ones. Like Charlie Chaplin movies, like The Dog and things like that. And I had notes on them that was really cool. Like, because they have children and grandchildren, like where the hell they are now.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll just go off what I know. Like my favorites, my absolute favorites.
Okay.
Like Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, Marilyn Monroe. Hello, Mr. President.
Now, I liked the movie that she did with Jack Lemmon. What was the name of that movie?
Some Like It Hot.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And the dress, the one where her dress flies up.
Oh, no. That's The 7-Year Itch.
Oh, I thought that was Some Like It Hot.
The one where she's on the streets of New York and she stands over the vent.
Yes. You see, you're more of a connoisseur of those classics.
Yeah, that's The 7-Year Itch.
I do like them, but I don't know as much about them as you do.
Yeah, that was The 7-Year Itch.
Mm-hmm.
That was what a movie. What a movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only woman in history who could change a gay man, and she died with the antidote.
Yep.
I was in love with her forever and ever. I loved me some Marilyn Monroe. Especially like, and I do enjoy some actresses today. Like there's, I think, some fantastic talent today. And some really bad talent. Some really bad talent.
Oh yeah.
But we still have, I call it the age of the statuesque actress. The golden age, the gilded age of the movies and the silver screen. I think we start losing that in about the late 60s, early 70s, where it really becomes sex. It's not really about a story anymore. And we lose great actresses and actors in that kind of world. But today we do have some good, like Helen Mirren. I think she is so eclectic in her ability to act and portray a character.
I think she's sexy.
Oh yeah, she's gorgeous. So gorgeous.
Oh yeah. But more than that, it's the way that she carries herself. It's her character. I mean, it's her persona of who she is.
Oh yeah. And how she can convince you that she's not Helen Mirren. I think Rachel Weisz is the same way. And I mean, that she's gone from period pieces to horror, Constantine to historical biopics, and she is just as fluid. Julia Roberts, and I know a
Harrison
lot of people are
Ford.
like, Julia Roberts isn't really a, she's
Yes,
Julia
she
Roberts.
is.
And I'm
Yes,
like,
she is.
no, that girl can convince you. Just like
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock. I think the opinion of Sandra Bullock is, man, that girl is talented.
Sandra
And
Bullock is the epitome of what I want. Let's just put it that way.
Get it.
Yeah.
Well, and I love her humor.
Mhm.
I
I love
love
it when
it.
she works with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
They've
But
got great chemistry.
I mean her humor in real life. Like,
Oh yeah,
she
yeah.
did this movie, it was something about Steve, or it was such a bad movie. I think it was her worst ever. I mean,
Must
it
be
was
because I
awful.
can't remember
All
it.
about Steve or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And she wore these red rain boots like throughout most of the movie, and then in the end of the movie, she fell in a hole.
I don't
And
remember
she
this
stalked
movie. I'm
this
going to have
guy.
to look that one
Yeah,
up
I
and watch
can't
it.
remember what it's called. It's like all about Steve or something like that.
Mhm.
But there's an organization that does an award for like the worst movies of the year, and she won. And no one ever goes to this. Like these actors who win. I think Nicolas Cage has won. I don't know how many years in a row because he is just shit. And
Well, now he can be. I think he can be a great actor if he's got the right parts.
when he
I
does,
like him in the World Trade Center movie.
no,
I
no,
loved him in that. I
it's
thought he was
every
great.
role he does post 95
Mhm.
is Nicolas Cage in whatever movie title as Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
That is the last good movie he did was Raising Arizona with that was the last, in my opinion. I
Well,
think
and
where he
wasn't he
went
in
down was
Moonstruck?
like the start of Con Air. It was like, no, that you're done, dude.
Yeah.
You're no longer an A-lister. You're just kind of this poorly, and then he kind of hit it on the nail a little bit with National Treasure, and then it just lost it.
I love National Treasure, the first one. I didn't like the rest of them as much, but I love the first one.
Yeah, but I mean, we do have some great, I mean, actors like, I don't, okay, so if we're only going to pick one genre for this actor, because I know everyone thinks he's crazy, but I think he's extremely talented. And Tom Cruise is that actor
Yeah,
who is extremely talented, who
he
takes on a
is.
role and engulfs it. Very much like Anthony Hopkins, how Anthony Hopkins will
That man,
continuously do a role.
he is a classic. I
Oh, I know.
love Anthony Hopkins.
I know.
I had a
I was
crush on
reading
him when he was
it was,
Hannibal.
oh yeah, that's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of creepy.
I know. Isn't that?
Um,
He was just kind of sexy the way he wore that white T-shirt.
did you want to have him with some fava beans?
Yeah.
It's kind of like Meryl Streep is another one, and put her politics aside, I think she is a fantastic artist, and I love how sincere she is. There was an interview that was done with Anne Hathaway, and when she did Devil Wears Prada, and she says, when I first met Meryl Streep, she introduced herself and she said, "Hi, how are you?" And Anne Hathaway responded, and then Meryl Streep literally said, "This is the last time I'm going to be nice to you until this movie's over." And it was true. She was awful to Anne Hathaway because she engulfs the character so much.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Meryl Streep is one of those actresses that can convince you that she is who she's portraying. And I think that comes from that old Hollywood, because I don't care what movie it was. If we're talking about people like Jane Russell, Jane Russell was not Jane Russell in every movie. Jane Russell was whoever she was.
Yeah.
And in some way, Marilyn was the same. I mean, yes, it was Marilyn Monroe, and we couldn't get past the tits and the body and the sex symbol and the blonde hair. But she really did have a talent.
She did.
Rosalind Russell was another one. I love Rosalind Russell. She was in Gypsy with Elizabeth Wood. And
see, now I don't remember any of that, so that's your thing.
Well, yeah, I love me the silver screen. I do, and I think that we have lost, and it's the same with music. Because I mean, we'll have to do that on another show because that's a whole different freaking can of worms. But I think we've lost a lot of the creativity and the artistry. Now, I'm not saying that because there were some atrocious things that occurred during the silver screen Hollywood, you know, about the contracting. I mean, people like Betty Davis, who pioneered actors to control their own contracts, because Betty Davis did. She fought Warner tooth and nail just to get her own stuff done.
Yeah.
And it almost cost her career.
And not only that was atrocious, but the way that the child stars were treated.
Casting couches. Oh, the child stars? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like Judy Garland.
So
she
here's
was
the
high.
saddest thing.
She was high when she did.
That was Hollywood then. I mean,
know, but they
Marilyn
kept
Monroe,
her that way.
during every shot she ever did, she was high. And that's because they give them pills to sleep, pills to wake up. They just
and then
gave
they get hooked
so
on
much.
it, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're just a drug addict," you know.
Janis Joplin killed herself in a hotel room. I don't get it, but they just gave her so many drugs over and over. Yeah, like a great example of child treatment was the Little Rascals, the original. The kids, in order to get them to cry, they would tell them things like, "We killed your dog," or, you know, "Your mom died," and these kids would cry, or they would physically harm them, like pinch them or slap them and make them cry, so that it would be realistic. It would be actual crying. Because how are you going to tell a 5-year-old? Because the majority of those kids on the Little Rascals were under the age of 6 and 7. So, I mean, you got to make them cry somehow. Let me just beat up your cat in front of you. Like, if you don't cry, I'm going to kill your mom. Oh my God.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, there was some atrocities that occurred, but I mean, look
and
at
now today we just have Harvey Weinstein. So, you know.
We don't just have Harvey Weinstein. We got some other stuff going on. There's some nastiness happening there. You know there is.
Oh yeah.
But no, I mean, but we did have some amazing movies come out. And it wasn't this like proverbial machine where every week there was a movie coming out. It was every month a movie was coming out, or every 2 months a movie was coming out, because it was done in quality. I mean, Elizabeth Taylor was one of the highest paid actresses of the time.
She was a great actress.
Yeah, and she was working on she worked on Cleopatra, and then at the same time, if I remember correctly, and if you're watching and you know, or you've Googled it or whatever, I don't know, everybody Googles everything today. But if you know, she was working on 2 movies at the time, and I believe it was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but I don't want to be quoted on that because I don't know exact.
Yeah.
But just back to back, you know, doing movies back to back like that, and but only one movie coming out a month. Do you know what I mean? Because it took that long. The sets were huge. The production quality was amazing. The acting quality was fantastic because it was a perfection of craft. Like, it wasn't just sex appeal. And I know they always say that, and there's like SNL makes fun of it, and some of their sketches about women in Hollywood in the golden age and the silver screen. And
Carol Burnett did the same thing with with she took the curtain rod and put it through her.
With the Midnight Matinee. With Midnight Matinee. She yes, man, she was a talent. Between her and Bob Fosse and Tim Conway and Vicki Lawrence, which is hilarious that they found Vicki Lawrence, and Harvey Korman, and you know, and Lyle Wagner, and they had a huge. But that, I mean, you have to remember that this is slightly after. So, when the Carol Burnett started, I believe it was in '68. Was the first year Carol Burnett started, or no? It was '62, because there was a 10-year contract on the Carol Burnett show where she didn't have exclusive rights. And then they re-aired an episode in 72 because it was the 10-year and she owned the show herself.
Yeah.
So I think that's, if I remember correctly, my history can get a little jumbled because there's a lot of information in there running around. I've got these
If
little
anybody
men
out there
running.
knows more than we do, please put it in the comments.
Yeah,
We
do
need
it,
to know.
do it. 'Cause I'm all about fixing and learning and doing all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, Carol Burnett, she was, as a matter of fact, she was the first female variety show host and
Yeah,
creator.
she paved the
And
way.
no one
She
thought she
opened
was
it
going to
up.
do anything.
And then came Mary Tyler Moore and her show.
And Maude.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just blew up from there. So, and I think it gave birth to fantastic comedic writers, like Gary Marshall, who worked on Happy Days and
Laverne and Shirley,
Mork and Mindy, and,
yeah,
you know, and ironically, all at the same time. He did those shows at the same time.
It is hard for me to watch comedy now, today's comedy on TV. There's a few, very few shows. I loved The Big Bang Theory. Loved that show. But I
have a problem with comedy today because it's given to you.
Yeah.
There's no room for interpretation. There's no room for you to gain your own innuendo. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'll tell you, one of the kings of innuendo was Tim Conway, and he had his own variety show, the Tim Conway Show, and excuse me, and obviously he was a regular on the Carol Burnett show, and then towards the end of the series, he became an actual cast member. But he was the king of innuendo.
Yeah.
I mean, the king, he could make something so dirty be so clean. You know what I mean?
Just let your mind go.
Yeah. And he gave it, he would, like the elephant story, the infamous elephant story, you know, and there's actually two of them. There was one that they did during the rehearsal, and then there was one that they did during the live show. And this was towards the end of the series, and it was during the family sketches, and Dick Van Dyke was on. He was the special guest. And as a matter of fact, it was kind of a show of firsts, because it was the first time Vicki Lawrence, in her entire run with the Carol Burnett show up to that point, it actually did something to break everybody's character. Because she never believed, and she stated this in an interview, that she never believed she had the right to do so. I mean, Tim would crack Carol up and Harvey up, and even Lyle Wagner, who is the announcer, and he would crack everybody up. And Vicki Lawrence would try to hold us together so much because she just didn't believe that she had a right to do it, because she wasn't as seasoned as these other great comedians and comedians. And that one episode, man, where they were doing the family sketch, and Tim Conway was like, there was these two Siamese elephants, and he just kept going, and he's like, it's a monkey would go across, you know, both. And one day, one elephant caught a cold and sneezed and blew the other's head right off, you know. And he just kept talking, and Carol couldn't get any lines out. Dick Van Dyke was sitting on the side of the couch. He couldn't get any lines out. And Vicki Lawrence is sitting there just drinking beer.
Yep.
And then Carol finally gets a word, and she's like, it's your turn, Mama. And Vicki Lawrence goes, well, is that little asshole done yet? And everyone just blew up.
It was awesome.
Because Vicki Lawrence had finally said something, and she cussed on air, which was a big deal in the 70s. And so I don't like watching comedies today because there's no room for innuendo. There's no room for, it's given to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's handed to you. Like, you can't take an opinion away from it because I'm telling you what the opinion is. And I tend to stay away from the comedy sitcoms because of that. I love the drama sitcoms.
Yeah.
Because there's almost an intensity now in the drama sitcoms that kind of replaced the cliffhanger. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, a great example is I watch a lot of medical dramas like ER. For you older people, you know what that is. For you younger people, it was
St.
It was,
Elsewhere.
yeah, St. Elsewhere.
MASH.
Dante's Cove. So, I mean, I love those shows. And Matlock, you know, Murder, She Wrote. The thing I never understood about Murder, She Wrote was she was always there when something bad happened. Like, was she just that? Did she have that much bad luck? Or was it, I mean, was she like, was people like, oh, she's here, let's kill someone? You know what I mean? Maybe we'll end up in a book.
Well, here's my idea. Here's my theory. I think she's the one that killed them. And then she discovers it.
Always solved
and then she writes about it and gets all the money for it. So yeah.
Just pays for the lawyers for the people she framed.
Yeah.
You'll get off in 2 years.
Well, yeah, because they come back, they're recurring, you know, they come back as a different character, but you know.
Yeah, but I mean, we just don't have the imagination that we used to. I mean, like one of my, like Humphrey Bogart is probably one of my most favorite male actors, along with I mean, great people that people have actually probably heard of, like Marlon Brando and Jesse Lee, and I think that those actors, first of all, they had to hone their craft. There wasn't just you know, a lot of them started out in performing arts colleges and schools and groups and companies, and then they ended up in movies somehow because they were doing a review. I mean, that's how Barbra Streisand was discovered.
Right.
She was singing in a nightclub, and then they're like, well, oh my God, where the hell have you been? And then she ended up, you know, starring in Buddy Girl on Broadway. And that was her big thing. That was her big start. And you know, and then look at her career now.
And
I mean, she's not just been a musician. She was an actress, a stage actress, as well as a film actress. She was a director, a producer, a composer.
She amazing. It's too bad that she, you know, I mean, I know she's retired and all, but it would be great to see her again. I don't never see any pictures of her.
Have you seen her son?
No.
Oh my God. Such a talent. I mean, he definitely takes after his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, we had great talent. I mean, even, and it was, so if we're not even talking about just movies, then if we're going for like stand-up comics and the comedians and the TV shows and things like that, people like Ethel Merman, these fantastic powerhouse voices, and not just Ethel Merman, but like Phyllis Diller, who was a road runner for female comedians.
Yeah.
I mean, she pushed the mark. Lucille Ball did the same thing, and she was a fantastic physical comedian.
Yeah, she's one of my favorites.
I mean, she could literally sit on the screen, and she did a lot of times on her show, the Lucille Ball Show, I Love Lucy, and then later on, the Lucille Ball Show. And then Lucy and it was she had 3 shows. She had 3.
Yes.
She had I Love Lucy, and then after she did I Love Lucy, it was her and Ethel. But they weren't Lucy and Ethel, or maybe they were, I don't remember, but they had their own
Vivian?
show. Yeah. And like my favorite episode of that entire series is when they think Joan Crawford is poor and they hold a benefit to try and raise money for her. It's my favorite episode. It's the only episode I can ever think of when I have to do a quick in a hurry reference, because it's so funny, and it really changes the narrative for how Joan Crawford was perceived. Because I mean, a lot of people have seen or heard or read Mommy Dearest, and Faye Dunaway did a fantastic job portraying Joan Crawford in the most extreme way. But I don't think that was exactly who she was. I think that's how she was perceived by children, as this big, terrible monster. And that's how her daughter wrote her in the book. Do you know what I mean?
I'll never look at clothes hangers the same again.
Right. Now why you hang on? Maria, you get out of bed. My favorite line in that whole movie is when she turns on the lamp and she's like, "You call this clean?" You know, yes. I buy you these beautiful gowns and you treat them like rags. Get out of that bed, Christina. Clean this until it shines. And she's throwing Ajax everywhere. But the thing is that what people didn't see about Joan Crawford is that movie came out and it portrayed her in such an awful way. And this is a powerhouse woman. Not only was she a top actress of her time, and I know, like, my favorite feud in history is the Bette Davis Joan Crawford feud. And I think the only reason those two hated each other so profusely was because they were the exact same person. They were these two stubborn-headed women who knew what they wanted, who knew how they were going to do it, and they weren't going to let anybody stand in their way. So the moment another A-lister comes in with the same exact attitude, of course you're not going to like it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why, like, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, my favorite movie of both Joan Crawford and Bette Davis of all time. And it's because, like, they hated each other so much, the acting was real. Like, Bette Davis hitting Joan Crawford in that movie was actually Bette Davis hitting Joan Crawford in that movie. Like, it was not a throw hit. It was actually her.
It was not a stunt woman.
Of Joan Crawford.
That's right.
I mean, and those two powerhouse women, I tell you what. And they both, I mean, Joan Crawford, when she left Hollywood, she did some really low budget B-list movies, and she owned Pepsi for a long time.
I did not know that. And Joan Crawford owned.
I can't remember if it was Pepsi or Coca-Cola, but she owned one of them for a long time. She married the tycoon who owned it at that time. And when he died, she took over.
Oh, wow.
And man, she changed it. She changed it. Everything she did from that point on, like when they did Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, there was a Pepsi machine or a Coke machine. I don't remember which one, but there was a soda machine on set. She made sure everybody had a soda if they needed it. Like, here's a soda, take it. Like, I'm endorsing it. It's my company. And then she sold it. Yeah, and then she sold it. I mean, she was a powerhouse, man. She knew exactly what she wanted. And the sense of humor that she could laugh at herself was hilarious. Because she didn't need money, and that's why she quit acting, because she was so well off, you know. And for Lucille Ball to have the Lucy show, and with her and the actress who played Ethel on the original I Love Lucy, for them to go into Joan Crawford's house and it's completely empty and she's dressed shabbily scrubbing floors, which is so Joan Crawford, and they're like, oh, she's poor. She has no money, so she had to sell all of her belongings, and this is what she's wearing, the classic lady Joan Crawford, who
that was
wore furs
great
and jewels and this and that. And then they find out that no, she was just cleaning the house because she was switching out the furniture. Best episode ever.
I thought everybody did that.
Carol Burnett was the same way, man. She could laugh at the most of them. Like the Gone with the Wind sketch from the midnight theaters that she did on her show, and she's like, I saw it in the window and I just had to have it. You know, and it's her,
yes,
with this big curtain rod going across her shoulders.
Yes, tell Mr. DeVille I'm ready.
No, yeah, when she did Nora Desmond.
Yes.
Which was actually a very famous silent film star, Norma Desmond. Yeah, Carol Burnett used to do a character, Norma Desmond. You know, Max, who's here? You know, don't let them take pictures. And I mean, she was just hilarious with that black dress coming down the stairs. She's falling. Max.
Oh, that was
and
great.
Harvey Korman, man, he was a talent too. He'd be like, mistress, you are the greatest star, mistress.
I like Tim Conway's little old man shuffle.
Oh, I know, the 100-year-old.
You know, we keep coming back to Carol Burnett and Tim Conway and those guys. That was classic television to me, because that was the era that I was raised in.
They were so talented. I think it was because they were so talented, and they had so many different people on the show. And I watch that show all the time because I own a lot of the commemorative, sets and all this, like volume 1 of the Lost Tapes and this and that. And I mean, they had some amazing people on there, like Edie Gourmet and Cha-Cha, and I mean, her Cha-Cha was hilarious. Her Zaza Gabor. Yeah.
Yes.
With her big hanging boobs. And I loved that they would do the midnight movie theater. And it was always making fun of a movie that was coming out or that had been out. And it was such a good show. I think and Laugh-In started shortly after, I think. And I truly loved Carol Burnett more than I enjoyed Laugh-In.
Yeah. I mean, I liked parts of Laugh-In, but all of Carol Burnett was funny to me. Every bit of it.
I mean, Laugh-In had its whims, I mean, you had characters on there. I mean, Goldie Hawn got her start on Laugh-In as one of the Laugh-In girls. And she was so cute and cuddly, and she danced and she made her little baby voice and she'd giggle. And I mean, that's where she got her start, and that's great. And she did Laugh-In. But Carol, I think, held the torch for true comedic genius when it came to the sketch shows. There was nothing better than her on the television. And then if we're going back to the screen, it was the same way. You had these amazing talents, and as Hollywood evolved, they became obsolete.
Oh, I need to hear some Betty Davis. You got any Betty Davis?
Some Betty Davis? Like, are we talking like, do you remember when Betty Davis, okay, so when Joan Crawford, Joan Rivers, remember her talk show? The Joan Rivers talk show?
Yes, I do.
She used to do the late night, and she'd fill in for Larry King or Carlson. Yeah, or Carson, that's it. Johnny Carson. She'd fill in for Johnny Carson, and then she got her own show. And she always had Betty Davis on the show. Always. It was like she always had the same like 6 people come, and it was always like Betty Davis. It was like Elvira.
Yeah.
It was always the same people. I think it's because it made her comfortable, and then those people, if she was gone, would be the ones to sit in on her show. But yeah, Betty Davis was I think my favorite thing from Betty Davis is, and everybody knows it, especially if you're in the gay community and I'll say the older gay community, because I don't know if the younger gays know who Betty Davis was and why she was so significant. But the famous line of, "What a dump," she'd pull that cigarette.
Yes.
What a dump, she'd be, "My daughter, never, 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 never." And then she was such a talent. She growing old is not for the timid, My daughter will tell you that I beat her, that I burned her. I never, 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 never beat my daughter. I may have burned her with a cigarette once or twice, but I never, never, never beat her.
So why was she prominent with the gay community, the older gays?
I don't know. I think it's because, I think it's because of how strong she was, because it wasn't just her at that. I mean, if we're thinking about the Stonewall era, right? We're talking about Mae West. We're talking about Judy Garland. We're talking about, or I should say pre-Stonewall era, because the Stonewall started in 1969 because of the death of Judy Garland. And we homos were just trying to mourn our queen, and they wouldn't let us. But, which is what started Stonewall. So, I mean, look it up. Especially you younger people, get some history in your lives.
Who was it that started Victor Victoria with James Gardner?
That was Julia Roberts.
No.
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews, that's it. I always get her.
Julia Roberts. At that time, I think she was 5.
Judy Garland mixed up together. So, okay.
No,
that's why I was asking.
Julie Andrews was in Victor Victoria. She was in the original play, and then she did the movie.
Yeah.
With,
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, but we had these iconics like Judy Garland and Mae West, and Mae West
I
was
love Mae West.
that powerhouse of her own, man. I think she gave birth to a sexual generation.
Yes, she did.
How about you meet me upstairs sometime?
Okay.
And she's got some great quotes, man.
Yeah.
She'd be like, It's like, are you trying to seduce me? I'm not trying. I'm doing it. I'll hold you in contempt. I'm trying to be held in contempt.
You've been dead for a long time, but I'm there.
Yeah. Mae West, man, she was a cutter of them all.
One lady that I like, and I think she came around in the 50s, Maureen O'Hara. She starred with John Wayne a lot. And
she was in McClintock.
Her. Yeah, McClintock and The Quiet Man. That's my favorite.
She was in but my favorite role she's ever played was in McClintock. When John Wayne spanked her.
Oh, he chases her through town.
Yeah, and she fell in the horse trough.
Yeah.
And he pulls her out and he bends her over his knee and he gives her a wallop. And I think is the best O'Hara scene of all time.
Well, and her daughter then went on to star in Home Alone. The mom is Maureen O'Hara's daughter.
Yeah, Scarlett Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine, yes, not Scarlett.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara. No, I almost said Scarlett O'Hara, but it's Catherine O'Hara. Okay. Da, 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 da. Well, that's real pretty, but I don't know how to deal with, Home Alone.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I have never seen
Catherine
that
O'Hara,
movie.
and she's actually a pretty fantastic actress in her own right. And I think her show right now is Schitt's Creek, and she is fantastic in that. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. But it is hilarious. And the only reason I even watched that show was because Catherine O'Hara was in it. And I've always been a Catherine O'Hara fan.
Me too.
And she is hilarious. She's hilarious in that movie or in that series. I apologize.
It is a good one. I heard they were going to cancel it, but
I don't know. It's got like 5 seasons or something like that right now.
Yeah.
But if we're going with the McClintock and we're going with the O'Haras, we have to talk about DeMarco.
Okay.
Because she was just as wonderful.
Yes.
I mean, she was in the Munsters.
Now, yes, I was going to say that was the mother on the Munsters, right?
Yeah.
She was
She played
McClintock,
the housemaid.
and she was great.
Yeah, she played the housemaid / cook, whatever you want to call it, in McClintock.
Another beautiful lady. I know I keep going back to that, but I mean.
Well, I mean, the thing is they didn't call it the age of statuesque for nothing.
Yeah.
The men were beautiful. Cary Grant.
The
man was so beautiful. Lyle Wagner was gorgeous.
He was too Barbie Kenish.
Oh no!
For me,
if they could have taken if Cary Grant and Lyle Wagner would have come to my door and said, "We would like to integrate you into our lives," I would melt like jelly.
Well, I can see that with Cary Grant. I really can.
He was amazingly talented actor in his own right, but just beautiful.
Well, and he hung out with Randolph Scott a lot, and there was a lot of innuendo.
But did he hang out with
them.
Randolph Scott because they were friends, or because they were?
That's the question.
We all know that Cary Grant died of HIV, and because he was a homosexual, and
I didn't know he died of HIV. I thought he just died of old age.
No, Cary Grant?
Yeah.
Cary Grant died of HIV. That's what pushed the HIV crisis.
No, that was
Ted Kennedy? I'm just kidding, Kennedys. I'm not throwing your name under the
No. That was I could see his Rock Hudson.
Damn it, I knew it. He's another one too.
Yes. He was.
He's another one. Oh, come on, Rock. Show me your Rock.
Show me that rock, baby.
Give me a little piece of that little island body. Yeah,
Just
rock.
a pebble and I'll be fine.
Yeah, but Marlon Brando was in his heyday.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Rebel Without a Cause.
I am talking Marlon Brando?
Yeah. On the motorcycle?
No, my love.
Yes.
Marlon Brando. No, you're thinking he was gay too.
Marlon?
Now I can't think of his name.
I'm looking
it up. Rebel Without a Cause wasn't Marlon
Brando.
It was Jimmy Dean.
Oh shoot, that was James Dean.
James Dean.
Oh,
Jimmy
he was
Dean.
good looking too.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Dean, and he was a homosexual too.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he was gay. Yeah. Yeah, great talents.
Natalie Wood was in that with him, and I did not know that.
Yes, he was. And Natalie Wood was married to a Wagner, and she died.
Robert Wagner.
Yeah, she was married to Lyle's brother, Robert.
See, now I always thought Robert was better looking than Lyle.
No, I always thought Lyle was the better looking of the two brothers, because Lyle and Robert were the only boys. They had a younger sister, and there was an older sister, because it went the older sister, Lyle, Robert, and then the younger sister, and I think her name was Katie or Casey or something like that.
Okay, here's where I got mixed up. Marlon Brando did a screen test for Rebel Without a Cause.
Yes, he did, and he was not chosen because James Dean was the hot pretty boy of the time.
At the time, yes, but Streetcar Named Desire,
which was Marlon Brando's breakout.
Yes,
and he did that so fantastically, and I think the only reason, there's no evidence to this, absolutely none, but I really truly believe that is the only reason why Vivien Leigh did the movie. I think was because of Marlon Brando, and because he was such a sex god at that time, sex symbol, and he slept with everything.
Yeah, he did. He had. They said he had an insatiable sex appetite.
Oh yeah, I mean, so Elaine Stretch. She was a Broadway actress, and she did some movies. She actually went to school with Marlon Brando, and he was so upset with her because she didn't do the nightcap, you know.
Yeah.
That he stopped talking to her for a long time, but I mean they were still pretty good friends, and Marlon went on to do movies. You know, he went on to do A Streetcar Named Desire, and she went on to do some other stuff.
Yeah.
And so I mean, but there's just the elegance of it. Marlon was a whore. He was a big ho.
Yeah. You know, I think my favorite movies was Godfather 1 and 2 that he did. Now I did like Apocalypse Now with Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Marlon didn't impress me in that movie too much. And I don't think he impressed the people that he worked with either, because, you know, there were times when he wouldn't show up. And if he did show up, he was
drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that they go down.
I mean, it was Marlon.
Yeah.
He was fucking wasted
for
most of the scenes of The Godfather.
True.
So, I mean, that was just the age. That was what he came from. And I'm, you know, every time I hear, you know, so-and-so died this year, and then they go into the memoriam of their careers, and they're like, well, you know, she popped pills all the way up to this point, or she did this all the way. Like, I know that at some point, because one of my favorite ladies who is still living today from that era and is still working is Vanessa Redgrave.
Oh, yes.
And I know that there were things, well, and not just her, Maggie Smith is another one of them.
Now, what did she play or star in? Because I can't.
Who?
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith. Did you ever watch Harry Potter? She was McGonagall.
Oh, is that her?
Yeah, if you ever watched Hook with Robin Williams, she played Wendy Darling. If you ever seen Downton Abbey, she played the Dowager Countess. It's Maggie Smith. I can't believe you haven't
I just
seen.
don't know the name. I know the face.
Yeah, I mean, there are some actresses that are still working to this day that were from that era. Oh, I'm not going to remember her name. I don't have my notes in front of me, so it doesn't help. She was in Google this for me. The cast of Mrs. Winterbourne or Guarding Tess, either one, it doesn't matter.
Guarding Tess.
Yeah, she played Riz in Steel Magnolias.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. So, I mean, she's not really working, but she kind of is, but she's not. I think the last thing I saw her in was Downton Abbey. I mean, there are still some great actresses from that era that are alive and still.
Shirley MacLaine is still alive?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, these women are pushing their 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Yes,
Judi Dench. She's another one that I really care for.
Judi Dench.
Yep.
Dame. We have to say Dame. Dame Judi Dench. Dame Maggie Smith. Dame Shirley MacLaine.
Now, explain why we call them dames.
Well, because it's the female version of knighted, isn't it? It's. I mean, the Queen has given them the honor. They are national treasures. This is Dave Attenborough discussing the dames of New England. So, I mean, but we lost some great ones. I mean,
yeah.
If we're going to go all the way up to the 70s, we really got to talk about Katharine Hepburn and Audrey, because and they're of no relation.
No.
At all. But well, we have to talk about them because, first of all, both of them were extremely talented actresses. And then secondly, the humanitarian work that they did was, I mean, far beyond what anybody has ever done today.
Right.
Audrey Hepburn, I mean, she started all kinds of things. I mean, UNICEF kind of programs, where you donate money to get clean water for villages in Africa or Saudi Arabia or wherever. And Katharine Hepburn did the same thing. She started organizations to feed the hungry, and which I get, because if you were married to Jimmy Stewart, you would have to fill your time somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I don't think in the end of that man's life, I don't think he completed one sentence.
Sounds a lot like our president.
Yeah, I just don't think, because he would do like interviews and I was waiting and then well, yes, all righty. And that's what he would do. And I don't think he completed one sentence, but Catherine in the end was the same way. But it's not about the completing the sentences. You just had no idea what she was saying. And I don't know if it's because of the way her voice had that weird vibrato to it, that,
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy, I've been waiting, well, don't talk to me in that tone of voice, Jimmy, and I don't think she I would have just loved to have been one of their grandkids to just sit there and watch them argue at the breakfast table. Catherine, hand me the paper. And she'd be like, there is no paper today, Jimmy.
Can you imagine them in a porno?
Oh my God. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Just like that.
Oh, they would never get through.
Never, ever. And then you just throw in someone else. I don't know, like I don't know, name someone.
Um,
Let's see. Phyllis Diller.
yes.
Just have her in the background. You know, like
With her hair everywhere.
Laugh. Yeah, like looks like I got hit by a bus. They have a special entrance for me at the beauty salon. It's called emergency exit.
Oh gosh. That is one comedian that I miss.
Phyllis Diller.
Awesome. Yeah. She was awesome.
Man, she could, and you know, the majority of the time she was making fun of herself.
Yeah.
And I think that was so funny. And Joan Rivers was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she would make fun of women, but it would be more of a knock on herself, not so much on every woman, but just on herself. And good, clean talent like that is just, it's gone. Everything today is about pussies and dicks and tits and hoes and, you know, I'm a prostitute. And there's just no humor in it to me. It's like
there's no class.
Yeah, you can have good, clean humor.
Yeah.
And it still be funny. Without every other word being the F word.
I like what you said earlier about, you know, back then, the comedians, you had to have your own interpretation. And sometimes your interpretation was what made you laugh more than what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Necessarily. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, a great example, Phyllis Diller. She always talked about Fang, her husband, you know. And she would always make these open-ended jokes that you really had to come to your own conclusion with. So, like, I think one of my favorite Phyllis Diller jokes was that she was all knees. You know, she was just all knees.
Yeah.
And because she was so skinny and so scrawny, but that's all she would say. Like, and she would make broad jokes, but when she would say, I'm all knees, she was claiming that she had a flat chest. And you knew that she was saying she had a flat chest, but she left that up to your interpretation. You take that how you want. Great comedians did that all the time back, you know, before the age of say whatever you want.
Right.
I'll
Milton
say,
Berle was one of them.
Before the age of inserted politics, because we kind of went from this like classy storytelling in all forms of entertainment to insert politics here.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. That's where we live. We live in this insert politics here. And I really, that's why I don't watch a lot of TV. And if I do, it's usually something educational or it's something old. Like I use Amazon Prime a lot, and no, they don't endorse us, but I have my Carol Burnett on that show, and I watch MASH, and I watch Mork and Mindy, and I watch the old shows that I grew up with, even if they were reruns when I was growing up. It was good, clean family fun.
Yeah.
And it was funny, where it was still clean, but it was funny. And you know, and I think as time went by, we started losing touch with that. And I think some of the greatest shows that we have lost kind of started to wean out in the 90s, because we had shows like Grace Under Fire in the 90s and Roseanne, you know, Cheers, and all of this went from the 80s into the 90s. These were great shows that showed like benefit of the time, like woes and ups and downs and here's and sides and back.
Golden Girls.
Oh God, yeah, the Golden Girls. And The Nanny, and you know, I mean, there was just so many good, clean family comedy that you could slip in something inappropriate and it wouldn't go unnoticed, but it would be clean enough that you could take your own interpretation. Like, for example, The Nanny with Fran Drescher. Every time Cece and Niles had banter, it was always inappropriate, but it was clean, and you knew it was clean. And being a kid, you didn't pick up on that, but when you watch it again as an adult, you're like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. and you pick up on those innuendos. And now that's not the case. We don't have that anymore, and it's just thrown in your face, and it's dirty humor, and it's. I mean, I'm giving it to you on a plate. I'm going to spell it out A, B, C, D for you, and you're not going to have that innuendo.
Right.
And what do you do? I mean, we've kind of lost touch on that. I think it's sad. And I think we still have some great shows. I think we still have some great performers and entertainers and actors and stuff. But I think, like I said, we've become an era of insert politics here. I used to love to watch award shows. And now I can't stand it.
Oh, I know.
Every
I don't
time
even...
someone wins something, it's political. And I don't care what you believe in politically. I just watched you get banged by Richard Gere on a piano.
Yeah.
That's a Pretty Woman reference, if you're wondering.
No, I knew what you were talking about.
No, I'm talking to everybody else. I don't care. Like, you know, I want to watch, like, I used to watch the Oscars because I was in such awe of such talent being in one room and honoring how humbled they could be to hand over an award to somebody and say, you did a great job. I always admired that. And then they started standing on the podiums and like, you know, Biden, Trump, Democrat, Republican, sovereign, my vagina is full of sand, my pee-pee has rocks in it. I don't know. I just don't care anymore. I don't watch that stuff anymore. I think it's
I remember when John Wayne's last time that he was there, you know, and he spoke, had his mustache, big mustache, you know, but he was already starting to lose weight. It was real close to the time he died. I believe it was for The Shootist. I believe that was the movie that he was there for. But anyway, it was great. I used to watch them all the time. I lived for it. Every year when the award shows would come around as a little kid, I was excited about it because, you know, they were my fantasy characters.
And, you know, I had my own TV. So we had the little box travel TV, you know?
Yeah.
Because back then the big screen was like a 20-inch TV. And we're on top. You guys were so cool if you had that 20-inch TV.
I had a 13-inch black and white.
Yep. And I had a 12-inch box.
Is that the
TV.
one with the handle on top?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had one of those too. And it was color.
Yeah, and mine was color too. And it sat upstairs in our sitting room, and the rest of the family would go downstairs and they would watch whatever TV, you know, show they were watching or movie. And I would lay on the floor and watch Star Trek. That was my thing. And my mom never questioned it. She'd be like, nope, it's Tuesday night. This is Aaron's TV. This is for this amount of time. This is what Aaron's doing. And I would watch Star Trek. And at that time it was Next Generation. And then
see, now I like the Star Trek with Captain Kirk.
Yeah, the original. It was Star Trek, not Star Trek Generations. But and see, my favorite was Voyager. Because I came in at the end of Generations. You know, it was halfway done. They were coming through to the end marker, and I mean, Roddenberry had just you know, passed away, I believe, and I think it was the third movie had just come out of Generations, and Voyager began, because Voyager, I believe, began in 98. I think it was 97.
Okay.
I want to say 97 because I used to watch Generations, and then when Generations ended, I picked right up at Voyager, and Janeway became my favorite captain.
Yeah.
But every year at award season, the same thing would happen. The family would watch TV downstairs, and I would sit in the sitting room with the box TV, and I would watch the awards. Like, I remember when Sally Fields won her first Oscar, I cried. I was like, go Sally. And she was like, you love me. You really love me. I remember those moments.
Was that for Sybil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. And well, I mean,
Another
shit.
classic movie
I was
right
gonna say
there.
Sally Fields, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, talk about.
And she started out as the flying nun, or wasn't
Yeah.
it? Or was it Gidget?
No, Flying Nun was first, I thought, and then it was Gidget.
Okay.
Either way, man, she was a talent too.
And if none of you know what we're talking about, get on IMDb and go look, because there's some really good.
Because I mean, we're talking about actresses from like Steel Magnolias. You put all those powerhouses together, and
oh yeah, that was awesome. Dolly Parton, all of them on
movie.
there.
Yeah, Shirley MacLaine, Dolly Parton, Sally Fields.
What was that one lady's
Melanie
name?
Griffin. Huh?
What was the one lady's name that was on there with them?
Julia Roberts.
I can't think of her name. I can see her. On Steel Magnolias, she was the older lady.
That does not narrow it down.
No, it does not, because they were all older except for Julia Roberts.
She was a youngin'.
Yeah. See, what was her? Good grief. What was her name? Steel Magnolias. That's a great movie. It's so emotional.
Oh yeah. And if you, I mean, you want to talk about emotional breakdown scenes, It's Not Fair. Sally Fields breakdown.
Olympia Dukakis.
Oh yeah. Olympia Dukakis.
Yep.
Fantastic woman. She was the principal in Mr. Holland's Opus.
Yeah. Daryl Hannah.
Yeah. Oh, Daryl Hannah. Love
Tom
her.
Skerritt and Sam Shepard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great movie. I used to watch, my mother loved scary movies. She used to, when she was younger, she would go to the nickel shows and watch horror movies like The Mummy and Dracula and all of that. Well, Dracula, with Bela Lugosi, the 1931.
I love the Lugosi Draculas.
I know. I want to suck your blood. That's where that came from.
The blood came from was Lugosi.
It's not even really in the movie, but that's where it came from.
No, it's just how he talked.
Yeah, and he was so convincing. He scared me.
Yeah, Dracula, The Rise of Dracula. Dracula Return. Bela Lugosi did a lot of
Dracula Meets Frankenstein.
Yeah, he did a lot of the horror movies. Vincent Price.
Loved Vincent Price.
Loved Vincent Price.
I still say my favorite thing that he ever did was narration of the Thriller video by Michael Jackson. Love that.
Yeah, but
because his voice is so iconic. You know it when you hear it.
Oh yeah, and it's Vincent Price. Come on.
Yeah. And then there was The Fly and The House on Haunted Hill or something like that. The House on the Hill.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. The House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah. And, there's just great movies. But my mom, we would, when I was a little kid, Dad would go to bed and we would sit up, I thought was late, 9 o'clock, watching the old scary movies.
Only because even when I was growing up, it was still this way until I want to say like the late 90s. Early 2000s, the TV used to turn off at midnight. The flag would wave and the national
anthem
it would
be
go off. Yep, and then you would have the big Indian head or the hourglass, and it would be it was it. That was all you're getting for broadcasting.
And it was over with until 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
I think it was 5 a.m. because of the news, but. And the first thing that would be on would be the morning news.
Yeah.
This is the morning news, and I'm Tom Brokaw.
Yeah, I remember watching Elvira with my mom.
Yeah, the movie Madness with Elvira, and then there were terrible movies she'd always play.
It was horrible, but we laughed so hard.
Yeah.
It was great.
Another thing I used to love to do was listen to the midnight radio, which was never actually at midnight. It was it was always at like 9-10 o'clock, and it's like, now that all the kids are asleep, and then they would tell horror movies, scary stories, and they'd play out these scary stories. I love
The Shadow was one of them.
Or my favorite, War of the Worlds.
That was great. The one with Orson Welles, they did that on the radio, and it actually sent a panic to anybody that was
when it
listening
first
to it, because
aired,
they thought
when
it
it
was
originally
real.
aired. Yeah, people called 911. Well, there was no 911 at the time, but people were calling the police lines. They were running out of their homes. They were
checking the skies, and they were just freaking out.
Because it was the radio, and they're like, oh my God, this is real because it's the radio, and it's got to be real.
Yeah.
But yeah, Orson Welles scared the shit out of the world. And
yes, he did. H.G. Wells wrote that story, that book, in 1898.
Yeah.
And they did when did they do that? I wrote it down here.
I think it was in like the 30s
1938. 1938.
Yeah. I knew it was late, but I couldn't quite.
Yeah.
It was like the 30s or 40s. You said it was 38?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was early days of screen, so there was no TV. It was movies. So you went and saw a cinema. You didn't go. At that time, it was the nickel cinemas, penny theaters.
Yeah,
But
and the Mummy. I love the Mummy too.
Yeah,
the original, the Mummy.
Yeah, not the Brendan Fraser version.
Now, I like the first one with Brendan Fraser. I do like that one, and the second.
But the original, the Mummy.
But the original, who was the guy that
Mummy versus the werewolf?
Yes, and Dracula versus. He always had the werewolf as he controlled the werewolf until he couldn't.
Because he had the silver cane.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he would do the hand thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I better watch out. I might hypnotize the audience.
Maybe. I love it. But Vincent Price, and I still do it every year. And this was the first year that I actually wasn't driving anywhere, which is kind of nice. Yeah. But usually during Halloween, I am always working. So, I'm always driving either from clinic to clinic or from client to client. It's how it always worked out. I'm an adult, so it's not like I'm missing out on trick or treating. It's not a big deal. But I always turn on AM radio because I don't like FM radio. So I listen to AM radio a lot. And every year on Halloween, they put the Vincent Price narrations on. And all night long, you hear the Raven, you hear the Mad Eye, you hear the Telltale Heart, you hear all of these amazing narrations from Vincent Price. And I do it every year. Mm-hmm. Every year I turn on the AM station just to hear Vincent, and they still do it, even though he's gone.
I'm going to have to check that out because
if I can't find the station in the place that I'm at, I just pull up my phone and I YouTube it, and I just play the old narrations of Vincent Price on the Telltale Heart or the Raven or, the Mad Eye. He was such a Poe enthusiast. I think that's where he got his love for horror, and that's what got him into the horror movies.
Oh, I loved Edgar Allan Poe. I love his stuff. I got turned on to his stuff in high school or junior high, actually, when I started writing.
Too, and everyone thought I was all suicidal and stuff. And I'm like,
it's
so morbid. You're morbid. No, it's not morbidity. The writing style of Poe was so amazing. Mm-hmm. And to have someone as talented as Vincent Price bring it to verbal life. And he didn't even just bring it to verbal life. He actually used to do a program where he would act out.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, you'll have to YouTube it. His Telltale Heart action is phenomenal. Because it's Vincent Price. You can't go wrong. If you're talking horror movie, you cannot go wrong with Vincent
And we're not saying horror movies, we're saying horror movies.
Yeah, horror. The horror.
The horror.
Oh, the horror. Yeah, it's just I tell you what, Vincent Price was the way to go. And if you couldn't do Vincent Price, Hitchcock.
Yes.
Anything Hitchcock. Well, Grace Kelly, come on. Queen of Hitchcock, are you kidding me? Granted, she went off to be a Monaco princess, and that's okay, but The Birds.
Oh yeah.
Come on. Psycho. Yeah. Psycho.
That's a great one. I love it. The original Psycho is the best.
Yeah. The Hitchcock.
Yeah.
The Hitchcock Psycho.
That's what I'm talking about.
Not the Christian Bale version.
Well, there's
because that's American Psycho.
Yeah, but there's also they tried to redo Psycho with
I know.
What was that guy's name?
The Bates Motel.
No. No, this was not a TV series. This was a movie.
No. The guy, the Bates Motel guy. That's what it's based off of.
Oh,
what's his name?
What it is?
Uh,
he stars with Owen, what's his name, in some movies.
Wow. Owen Wilson?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But I can't think of his name. He's a good actor. It's just his type. I just could not get into it, but that's probably
is it a series?
No, it was a movie. They redid Psycho, and he was
with Christian Bale.
No. That's American Psycho. It has nothing to do with Alfred Hitchcock Psycho.
No. American Psycho was Jane. Pretty Woman. Help me out here.
Gere?
Who am I thinking of?
That
Richard
was American
Gere.
Gigolo.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that was American Gigolo with Richard Gere.
We've been on here a while.
Yes.
I've had this light shine into my face. Like I've had to rub my eyes twice or 3 times. I'm not used to this light. I feel like there's a halo above me.
Yeah.
And the way my awards are behind me, it's like this cross, and I'm Jewish, so it's like this cross is showing up, and there's like this halo ring appearing in my eye, and I'm like, what's happening in this room?
It is his name is Vince Vaughn.
Oh, that's right. He did a Psycho?
They remade Psycho.
With Vince Vaughn?
Yes. And he was the Anthony Perkins guy. Except he wasn't Anthony Perkins, he was Vince Vaughn. And
right.
It was,
and he's a comedian, so it must have been weird.
It was, I don't know. I think I'm probably just being biased because I'm such a big fan of the original Psycho.
Maybe. I'm the same way when they do remakes, like A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
I thought
another classic.
Every Star Is Born is a remake because there's like 5 of them. Because the original was a silent film. And then it was redone as a talkie, and then Judy Garland picked it up and made it a musical, and then Barbra Streisand picked it up and made it a rock musical, and then Lady Gaga picked it up and destroyed it.
Well, see, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to say she destroyed it.
Shit.
I'm a Lady Gaga fan, and I'm a Bradley Cooper fan.
I don't know, but everyone was like, it was so good. Oh, it was so... And I'm just, I watched it, and I was like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just didn't care for it. I thought the songs were rushed. I thought the songs were fucking very poorly written. Mm-hmm. When Barbara wrote the songs for A Star Is Born in the 70s, I believe it was 1976.
And she started with Chris Christopherson.
Yes, and she started with Chris Christopherson. Mm-hmm. And they wrote the music, and it was these powerhouse numbers. These huge.
Oh, and they played on the radio. Now, there's one song that I know of that played from Lady Gaga's version, something about the Shallows. And
in the shallow, in the shallow, no. I just don't. I don't care. It is such a poorly written score on that show, in that movie. I just didn't care for it, and I kept thinking to myself, like, maybe it'll get better, and it just really didn't. And the thing I think that upset me the most is like Chris Christopherson didn't have the best singing voice.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the way he portrayed a drugged out rock star, it's not going to have a great singing voice, but he carried it with his acting and the character that he portrayed.
Yeah.
Chris Christopherson was that role. And when they redeveloped it, because it was redeveloped prior to the Barbra Streisand Chris Christopherson version, it wasn't this rock hero concert thing. They were in a nightclub. Mm-hmm. And the female role was a lounge singer, and the male role was a club owner who offs himself. So, I mean, they took this idea and they reinvented it. And I loved that about the Barbra Streisand version, is because it wasn't just the fact that Judy Garland had wrote the songs for, or had portrayed the songs. I don't remember who wrote the songs, but for the original Star is Born prior.
I believe that was Barry Manilow, because he wrote the songs.
Barry Manilow
wrote the songs, remember?
No, Barry Manilow was not. If he was born, he was maybe 2.
But he sings, I write the songs.
Yeah, but if maybe he was a fetus, I don't know. But when Judy Garland did that movie, it was in the 60s. It was the late 50s, early 60s, and it was a musical, and I think it only had like 2 or 3 songs in it. And the male role wasn't even singing at all. It was not a singing role. Mm-hmm. And they revamped it, and she turned it into a musical. And then Barbra Streisand once again revamped it. Mm-hmm. They took it out of the lounge and put it on a stage, and she became a stage act instead of a lounge act, and this concerts and albums, and made them these famous rock stars in the rocker life, because it was the 70s, and that's what they did in the late 60s and in the 70s. They did drugs, and they did lots of it. Yeah. And then they'd get drunk and binge for 3 days in the middle of nowhere. And then Bradley Cooper comes out, and I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great actor, but this was not the role for him, and it was not the role for Lady Gaga, and for her to write those songs and put them in the movie just for the sake of serendipity. I don't know. I don't care. It just was. It wasn't a good movie in my opinion. If you were going to reinvent it, you should have completely reinvented it. You shouldn't have tried to repeat the Barbra Streisand version and write your own songs. You should have just did the Barbra Streisand version and reestablished her music to fit the time.
Yeah. I think that would have been awesome, because there was a lot of songs that came out of that movie. More than one that they played on the radio over and over again.
Evergreen. Evergreen was a huge hit. Mm-hmm. The Way We Were.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, I just don't know. I'm not, when I hear someone say, oh, like they're doing a remake of this, I become trepidatious, and I don't want to go see it or even hear about it. Like the Aliens movies. Yeah. Alien with Sigourney Weaver. Mm-hmm. Fantastic movie. Yes. And then James Cameron came in and did the second one. It wasn't Aliens 2, it was just Aliens.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was 2. It was the S on there, so.
Yeah, it's just multiple. There was more than one. Yeah. It was Aliens, and then James Cameron, blew it out of the water. I think that won so many awards, didn't it?
I loved it. I loved the second one. Now, after the second one,
that's my favorite. It is my favorite. Yeah, and I agree. And then James Cameron dropped off, and then other directors came in and tried to do, like Aliens 3, Prison Planet. It was just shit. And then they did Resurrection, and it was shit. Yeah. And then the Prometheus movies. Now, I actually had this discussion with my dad the other day, because he was watching the Prometheus movies. And I was like, if they would have tried to, I get the whole prequel thing is really big right now, like doing these origin stories and all this crap. Right. But if they would have tried to stick to the storyline of the original Aliens, and then going into the second one, Aliens, if they would have stuck to that timeline, I think it would have worked out so much better, but it just made it weird.
It was hard to understand. It was very hard to follow.
Well, I don't know, but it was just
maybe it was my simple mind,
I don't know. It was weird, and it made no sense. And then when the aliens actually, came about, they looked weird, and
then there was Aliens Covenant. That was after.
That was the second one, and it just didn't make any sense. Yeah. But I think it would have been a great set of movies if they would have been on their own platform. You know what I mean? If they weren't trying to ride the wave of the Aliens franchise, if it would have just been its own thing, and then didn't even compare it to the Aliens franchise, just allowed it to speak for itself.
They've done
and
the same
followed that
thing with
timeline.
Predator.
Oh, I know.
You know,
But there's like 500 Predators.
and now there's Predator and versus Alien.
Yeah, well, not now. It's been out for 15 years, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Predator versus Alien, and then there's Predator Redemption or something like that, where they, people are on the planet.
Well, now they're doing another Predator movie, and I believe they're bringing Arnold Schwarzenegger back.
What's that old guy gonna do?
Oh, I don't know.
I can just see him
sternly
covering himself in shit because he's still in a diaper. I gotta be back at the old folks' home by 9 because it's Jello night.
You gotta say it in his voice.
Jello. It's Jello night. We have to go back. It's Jello night. We have to be back by 9. We gotta go. Not the Predator gonna kill us. We have to leave now. Get in the chopper. It's Jello night.
That was great. Well, my favorite guy on there died. Hillbilly, they called him.
Yeah.
I got to watch his spine and skull come out. That was kind of cool, but it was sad all at the same time. I liked him.
There's all kinds of ligaments and stuff in there. I don't understand how you just rip out a spine.
Because he's strong enough to.
There's things that are attached, and then they run it, and then they attach it, and they run, and wow, it's crazy.
Not to mention the nerves.
Yeah, and the muscle.
Yeah.
Where'd everything go? It must have been roasted prior. I don't know.
Must have. I don't know.
It slips right off the bone.
Oh, well, everybody, thank you for joining us while we reminisce about our favorite movies and classics, TV shows and music and all kinds of different things.
In the iconic and forever standing words of Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together to have a laugh and sing a song.
There you go.
I won't finish it because it's trademarked and CBS will sue us.
And well, you can't get
now
blood
it's
out
time
of a
to
turnip.
say so long. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you. Bye, Aaron.
Bye, Lisa. I'm kidding, Star. I love you.